Chapter 16. Within the Mountain.
I was once asked what our greatest treasure was. Was it the crown the king wore, or the antiques that furnished the palace? Were some treasures secreted within the temple, or hidden in the palace that were of greater value? I know that the question came from a place of curiosity, not avarice, and I could answer it in only one way. The greatest treasure within Estolia is priceless. There is no individual or nation upon this globe that could purchase it. No famine or need great enough to make us willing to part with it. I could see that my companion would not be satisfied with just that, so I clarified. Our greatest, most valuable treasure is the promise of Zacharias to deity. It secures for us longevity and prosperity, and above all other things, it grants us marital relationships greater and more profound than anywhere else in the world.
Beauregard Excalibur Zakarian, Capitulo 85.
I feel the pull of deity.
Sebastian finally spoke into the long stretch of silence that settled between the three men after their arrival.
It is clear to me that we must concentrate our attention on the smaller mountain to the southwest.
Zacharias and Key both reined their horses in the direction Sebastian indicated. They travelled into the valley, heading between the two mountains. Zacharias felt the presence of deity in the form of a deep and abiding warmth. He was grateful she did not expect them to make their way in this world without guidance.
I knew it,
Sebastian exclaimed.
See, a cave!
He urged his horse forward at a faster clip, and the others followed him towards the dark opening at the base of the mountain. They reined to a halt at the entrance to the cave, just within the shadow of the mountain.
We should make our camp here, and once we have done so and made a fire, we will bring torches with us and explore the cave.
Sebastian's expression was full of boyish enthusiasm. Key gently touched both Zacharias' and Sebastian's arms, and when he had their attention, he indicated his disagreement. Key was probably the most eloquent man Zacharias knew, especially considering he was incapable of speech. Sebastian looked from Key to Zacharias and said,
If Key thinks we should wait until morning to investigate, then we will wait.
That night the three men lay on their bedrolls, staring at the brilliant star-spattered sky. Zacharias remembered his last night with his family in northern Anoxes before he joined the Ankamoon. His older brother Phineas had said to him,
I know you will be successful in your quest.
They were standing next to the remains of his farewell bonfire. Zacharias felt a great fondness for his brother, but he had to leave in order to make his fortune, since he would not inherit it.
Do you think we will meet again?
He asked his brother. Phineas looked up at the sky. Zacharias followed his example, and the two brothers watched a shooting star. Only after the image faded from their night vision did Phineas answer,
No, Zach, we won't meet again. Mother and father know you will find your own future, your own path. I am certain we will meet in the life after this life. We will speak with each other about our adventures. Will you promise to seek me out?
Zacharias hugged his brother, thumping him on the back, conveying the depth of his love. When he pulled away, he vowed,
There is no barrier in the life after this life which will stand between the two of us. I will seek you out, and we will share our adventures with one another.
As Zacharias' thoughts returned to the present, he saw another streaking light across the sky, and felt as if deity was confirming his promise to his brother. He would be able to meet him in the life after this life. Torizon was the word they used here in Estolia, and he would have the grandest adventures to share. As he drifted to sleep, he smiled at the thought of that future reunion. The next morning, the three men approached the symmetrical entrance. They climbed up a short slope of debris and stood in front of the cave. The entrance was wide and welcoming. Once inside, they paused. The cave was large and spacious, and it split in three directions. Directly ahead of them there was a small, roughly rectangular opening, while there were larger caves to right and left.
I feel like we should explore this one,
Sebastian said, gesturing to the aperture ahead of them. When neither of the other two men objected, they moved towards it. Once they entered, they stopped and looked around in awe. It was as if an enormous bubble of air was captured inside the mountain while it was formed, creating a perfectly egg-shaped chamber. The sides of the chamber sloped up gently in all directions. The ceiling wasn't visible to them by the light of their torches. The most remarkable feature of the entire cave was a single gigantic stalagmite rising from the ground on the far side of the chamber and not quite meeting a matching stalactite dropping down towards it. As they approached the rock formation, Sebastian said,
"I believe this room could be adapted for religious ceremonies."
Zacharias paused and closed his eyes, trying to feel with his heart and self what Sebastian was suggesting. He imagined rich-looking tiles, crisp lines, and an ambiance filled with the presence of deity. When he opened his eyes, he felt the shiver of celestial forces touching their mortal lives. Key led the way around the rock formation to an opening on the far wall. Once they stepped through, they could see the glint of light ahead of them. The three men moved towards the light and saw there was another entrance into the cave. They could see a little burbling brook and a nearly vertical wall of rock beyond it. The stone rose to impossible heights only a dozen feet on the other side of the brook.
"This is between the small forward peak and the larger peak towards the back."
Zacharias paused and closed his eyes to breathe in the fragrance of the blossoms on a couple of mayberry trees on either side of the small brook. He turned back to his friends.
"I can imagine a place here where a newly attached couple might go to be alone, secluded, away from the never-ending requirements of real life, so they might spend a week with each other to solidify the most critical connection they will ever make, two souls merging to become one."
They turned their back on the sunlight shining down into the garden crevice and saw there were two caves branching off to right and left. They took the passageway to the right, moving deeper and deeper into the cave complex. Key began to lead the way, his motions sure and steady, until they were in a narrow passageway about as wide as a man was tall. At times they seemed to be climbing, as if they were approaching the very heart of the larger mountain.
"It appears to be a labyrinth from this point onward,"
Zacharias said. He worried they would become lost if they traveled much further.
"We should return to the horses,"
Sebastian suggested. Key reluctantly agreed and led them back the way they came. He looked back several times, though there was nothing to see in the darkness.